Jeff, did you get a haircut?
Did you ask me?
Yeah, did you get a haircut?
Yeah.
You're looking sharp.
Yeah, I'm normally supposed to look like a jarhead, but I just let it grow out usually.
Well, it's very in keeping with the weather.
So I've got an idea on my listing. I've noticed some other comparable stuff that's sold in the area.
Yeah.
Just thinking about calling up those agents that represented the buyers on those other ones.
Oh,
See if they have,
yeah, that's great.
yeah, see if they have any other people, because I noticed there's 3 comps to mine that's in the same general vicinity. The same person sold all 3 of them.
Mm.
So that tends to indicate to me she's got several interested buyers in that area. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So I think that's what I'll do after our meeting today.
Good.
Funny story. I wanted to go ahead and announce the listing to some area custom builders over there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 5 of them. And so I just kind of made up an email after I made contact with them and send them information about the property. Person number 3, I left the builder's name from email number 2 on their email. And I kind of ended the email with, this lot would look great with a such and such home built on it, and so she responded back to me and said, well, yeah, thanks for the information about the lot, and I think that we'd have a real hard time building that person's home on, have us be the builder and build one of their homes.
Yeah, right,
and,
right.
Yeah, so I just told her that, that was an old realtor's technique of creating a sticky memory.
Yeah, there you go.
Now she will remember my name if someone calls and is looking for a lot. So
now,
we had fun with it.
Had you posted that on social media, you would have just been lambasted from six
Yeah.
ways to Sunday.
Yeah, that's why I'd rather just get the humiliation one-on-one. That's much better.
I'm with you. Hey, Anissa. Thanks for joining us. You'll have to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. The more the merrier. Let's see. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and get started? So thanks so much, you guys, for joining me today. Today's topic is kind of finding your niche. And you may have noticed that a lot of my subject matter over the last little bit has been very sales focused or prospect focused. And that is completely intentional because we're living in kind of an imbalanced market. And we've got to turn over more stones to get business. And, if you kind of turn back the hands of time to 5 years ago or more, even heck, 3 years ago or more, it was a little bit easier. And, the dynamics of the market didn't quite exist as severely then as they do now. And so all that means is that, it can be very overwhelming and very discouraging to just kind of, do real estate in today's market, unless you kind of subscribe to what I'm going to talk about today, which is finding a customer segment that is right for you. And so let's just kind of jump in. So society today, I believe, is on this constant quest for its identity, right? And this has been going on for decades, but it's very much in the news these days. There's lots of little subsets of the population that they want a voice, they want inclusion, and they all have specific needs that they want to be addressed uniquely and specifically to them. And I'm not just talking about, politically motivated or socially consciously motivated. This just seems to be prevalent now more than ever. And so how we target a customer segment in real estate should really be no different. We're just trying to pinpoint how best we can help that person's needs based on what they are and based on who we are and whether that is a good fit for us. And so I tend to listen to what our clients say, right? I don't necessarily listen to what other brokers say or what other real estate agents say necessarily, or get caught up with the sound bites of the day. I go right to what the client tells us. And every year, the Texas Association of Realtors puts out this survey. And if you read the most recent Texas Realtor magazine, that's what this snapshot comes from. Next month, they will put in home buyers, but these are home sellers, so listings. And what I want to focus your attention on is on the right-hand section where it says the most important factor when a listing client chose an agent. So 34% was reputation, 18% was honesty and trustworthiness, and the other 18% was agent is a friend or a member of their family. So 70% of the answers were, in my opinion, things that you can control. And so if you skip down, now, just as an aside, you'll notice that in single digits are all these other things that a lot of other brokerages will tell you are hugely important, but they end up not being that way. One is technology. The other are association with a particular firm, professional designations, at least from a listing perspective. So if you jump down to the next circled title here, it says how the seller found their agent. 34% were referred by a friend or relative or neighbor. Okay, so I always talk about doing things to kind of get the word out about you amongst your neighbors, even though they don't know you. So that was 34%. 30% was based on a previous transaction, right? So well over half was based on what I would call relational motivation. And these are also things that we can control and get better at. And so you guys have no idea how desperately I would love reality to be that if I, as the broker, could write a big fat check to some company every month with the exchange being leads for all of you guys, I would love to have that be reality. That is the furthest thing from reality. It makes you feel really busy, but it doesn't necessarily create closings and productivity. So all that to say that if these statistics are worth anything, then it really is all about relationships and creating trust and rapport amongst your niche, okay? So what are the benefits of working this way? So the opposite would be just hope the phone will ring, or hand out as many business cards as you can, or buy Zillow leads and just hope that that all works out. What I'm suggesting today is taking a more surgical and targeted approach so that your customers are attracted to you and you've purposely gone after segments that you feel comfortable working with. And so number one, it's recession proof. Real estate cycles will go up and down, but if you focus on a certain niche of the population, that will stand the test of time. Secondarily, it makes you really good at one particular customer segment. So you become literally the expert. And all successful companies have realized this. And so if you take a look at some of the better known brands out there, people that have been around for ages, Chick-fil-A, they only sell chicken. They do not do hamburgers. They barely do salads. They don't do anything but deliver great customer service and a ton of chicken, right? John Deere, all they do is farm equipment, right? And they do it very, very well. Starbucks, all they sell is coffee and some tea. They don't do fresh pressed juice. They don't go out of their core competency, right? Same thing goes for Baskin Robbins. All they do is ice cream. That's it. They don't do anything else. Nike, the same way, with the exception of a clothing line. If you're a runner, as an example, Nike is in the top 3 choices of running shoes that you're going to go take a look at. And so all these companies have one thing in common, and that is they all know who they are, they all know who their customer is, and so that they never lose focus on what they deliver. Okay, so you'll notice that I didn't put up there companies like Google and Amazon because they don't just focus on one thing. They happen to be very successful, but that came over time. I mean, they were one thing, at one point in time, and they've evolved into something different. So, but the companies that I just put up there really just focus on one thing, and so should us. Hang on, let me move see my title. Okay, so these next 2 slides are from a presentation that I did a couple of weeks ago about marketing in different places, and one of which I included was the niche market. And so I'm just going to reiterate these just for you all to keep this in mind. So it's better to be an expert in one area versus a generalist in many. And the one point on this slide that I wanted to drive home was that if you can't go find your niche or join a particular group, start your own. And there's no better way to do that than on social media and even in your local community. And so you could do a variety of these different things: church group, biking club, reading club, wine club, get involved with Rotary, Kiwanis, and so on. And so the kind of the action steps and what this looks like at a high level, we're going to go a little bit deeper in a second. But when you're looking at finding your niche, you want to just plant your seed and wait for it to grow, right? It's not going to be an instant return on investment. But if there's anything that I need to emphasize with regards to getting business in real estate, is that this kind of goes for everything that we do. A one and done is not going to get the job accomplished. All right. Resist doing what everyone else is doing, i.e. access to mailing lists, mailers, mass emails. Everybody's going to do that. You got to think of creative ways to kind of get that business that's opposite of what everyone else is doing. Otherwise, you're not going to stand out. And then when you're in groups of people, find subtle ways to talk about real estate and let people know you're a realtor, and let them come to you. And not in a hyper aggressive way, but again, in a very subtle, non-confrontational way. Ask about their business, their life. What is an opportunity to cross-refer? How can you help them? You might think about setting up an event just for them, depending on what organizations they might be in. And then wear your name tag where it's appropriate. You'd be surprised at how many people actually approach you when they know that you are a realtor. All right, and so it's more about how you can help them. So available to you right now on our website under the business building tab is this document entitled 101 Ways to Lead Generate in Real Estate. And I'm mentioning this because some of you may not realize it's there. Some of you may have forgotten it's there, but there are literally 101 ways that I've itemized on this list. If you are having trouble getting started with regards to finding your niche, some of these can be really good thought starters. And I'll never forget when I first started in real estate 11, 12 years ago, when I was kind of searching for where I was supposed to get business, it was not uncommon for people to say, well, you should go talk to this person. All they do are open houses. That's how he gets 100% of his business. Or this person has made his entire living with expired listings, or through the church group that they're in, or some other volunteer organization. And so I began to think that if instead of trying to do the shotgun approach, if I just focused on one thing, maybe that, and consistently, maybe that would lead to a more, consistent and strategic approach to getting business in real estate. And so I did. And for me, it was expired listings. There's not a lot of those anymore, but they will come back, and there are still some out there. But all that to say that that's just one example of staying grounded and not overwhelming yourself with all these choices of where you can go get business versus focusing on one or two and doing those one or two really well. So today I want to focus on 5 different possibilities. Okay, one is going to be the niche of first-time home buyer. The second will be using Remind, and we're going to actually bring that application up and take a look around. Second, home purchaser. The asterisk means that NAR actually has a designation for this. And so it's less important to get the designation letters after your name as it is to go seek out the education if you don't know much about this market. Okay, the next is using community outreach. And then the last is we're going to take a look at the specific needs by age group, that being Millennial, Gen X, and Baby Boomer. Okay, now, ones that I will not talk about today, but that are still very viable for you to go after are military. Okay, we have a realtor right now whose husband is a veteran. She has other relatives that are veterans, and she has made it her mission to start networking groups and be the expert on VA benefits because she kind of lives in that world. And so she's going to start by first being a resource for those folks, because if you are a veteran or if you know a veteran, the VA benefits are very confusing. And so she is going to kind of seek out to demystify that for people and consistently deliver that message to military people in her community. You'll notice that it has an asterisk. There is a designation for that. The second is senior living. Okay, there has never been an opportunity like today where it's not just people all of a sudden waking up one day and they're 80 years old and they're going to move into a nursing home. There is so much 55 and older senior community, Del Webb, Robeson Ranch, to name 2. I mean, they make their living by selling real estate to 55 years and older. Okay, so there is a market for that. There's also a designation. For sale by owners. Okay, expired listings. Now, NAR does not have a designation for expired listings, but they do have a designation to be a seller representative specialist. Okay, so that is going to be key if you're representing listings, and in this case, expired listings. Land, raw land, farm and ranch. And there's an increased interest in land, by the way. I've mentioned this before because people can't get into a structure, a home. So they are opting to buy land and building on that land. So just FYI. International buyer. How many international owners do we have in the US? A ton. There is a designation for that. Luxury real estate. Diversity representative. I think this one is huge, and I put this on here because there's a designation for it. And I will likely sign up for this myself just because it fascinates me, in the sense that it's probably a day-long worth of education, and I can't imagine what they're going to cover. I just think that's going to be so interesting. And so there's a designation for that. And then lastly, there is clearly a market for first responders, nurses, and teachers. There are also loan products for first responders, nurses, and teachers. Okay, so typically they are the overworked and underpaid. And so by definition, they have difficulty affording a home. And so get with a lender and find out what those programs are. And that is a foot in the door to that segment. Okay, so let's talk about that of the first-time home buyer. Okay, what is their mindset? So they either know nothing about the process, but they think they do, or they genuinely don't know anything about the process and really need our help. Okay, they are going to typically feel overwhelmed. Most of them I find are very eager to take our direction. So please know what you're talking about. They're going to need things explained to them over and over and over again, in a context of, if this happens, these are your consequences. If this happens, these are your options type of deal. All right, they don't want to overpay for something. And this comes from all the sound bites in the news today about how crazy the real estate market is. And because interest rates are going up, they are going to be uncertain that they can afford it. Okay, so getting them synced up with a solid lender is a plus.
I might add one more to that list, Brad.
Yeah,
They're usually taking advice from a non-real estate professional as well.
very good comment. 100%. 100%. I should have led with that. That's awesome. That's so true. So let's say you want to find first-time home buyers because you think that you can provide service to them. Well, think about creating a first-time home buyer seminar. So this was unheard of in the past 18 months because no one was gathering. And so I've mentioned this before, you can do this in person. And if you do, grab a lender, grab a credit repair person. Don't feel like you have to shoulder the presentation burden by yourself, but you can always do these on Zoom. And there are plenty of free applications out there besides Zoom that you can do this with. Sometimes people find it less intimidating to join this way versus in person. Although we did have a realtor that did this last week and brought a lender and a credit repair person, and they had about 8 or 10 people show up. So I think that people are more inclined to meet in person. So and lots of free places to be able to do this. All right, and ask the question: will these folks qualify for any kind of particular loan product or grant that might be going on? So that's where your lender is going to be key. Okay, apartment complexes. So these are going to be your folks that don't think that they can do anything but rent, but they want to buy, and there's thousands of them. And so whether you put a flyer on their door or directly partner with the apartment complex to host an event maybe in their common space. Most apartment complexes are realtor friendly because they know that we have the ability to bring them renters. So you'd be surprised, but you never know unless you ask. And they all have a common mailbox area where you can put flyers and things like that. All you need are one, And then look at non-owner occupied rental homes. And we're going to use Remine in a second to take a look at this. But, apartment living can be a beatdown. And so there's plenty of choices out there with regards to single family homes as a rental property. And so if you are a first time home buyer but you're currently a renter, you would likely be in a single family rental home, just because maybe you're older, that's the quality of life you want, you're sick of apartment living, maybe you have kids now, pets, whatever. And so the trick becomes how to find those, and I'm going to do that in a moment. But these are some more common places to find first-time home buyers. So apartment complexes, you're chasing them. Hosting a home buyer seminar, you're attracting them to you. Okay, but goes without saying that think in terms of what niche this is, and think of creative ways where you can go wherever they are. Okay. All right. So let's talk about Remine. So all of y'all have access to Remine. I already checked before this call. The easiest way to access it is to go to your MLS, and you likely have a tab that says links, or you have a column of 15 or 20 different hyperlinks. One of them will be Remine, okay? So in Remine, you can prospect for sellers. You can prospect for pre-foreclosures, or what I would call distressed owners. Or you can prospect for absentee landlords and their tenants. So it's kind of a twofer. So in this list of 3, you have 4 potential prospect possibilities. I've said this before, Remine is your gold mine. For those of you that just joined real estate, you won't remember, Remine used to cost money. And it does not. It is a benefit with the Texas Association of Realtors. The biggest benefit is that they now provide for you free every homeowner's contact information, email, phone number. Now, are some of those phone numbers on the do not call list? Yes, they are. Do not call list means just that. If it says DNC, you cannot call them, but you already know their address, and you may or may not have their email. All right, so this is huge. So how do you use Remine, and what can you do? So I'm going to go into a demo in a moment, but for the most part, you can do direct mail. So think of Remine as the electronic version of driving up to the home and knocking on the door. You can do all that from your laptop. All right, and so you can create a direct mail list right from Remine. So you can send direct mail out. You can do a personal visit. Because now you know their name, right? So that's difficult. Sometimes if you're looking at a listing, it just says under owner, it just says, occupant or whatever. You're going to know their name. All right. So text, right? DNC doesn't mean you can't text them, right? Video text or video email. I know a prior real estate agent that was soliciting FSBOs, and all she did was, because the FSBO puts their sign in the yard, and so that's their phone number there. It's a cell phone. She just opened up her phone and took a quick video of herself and told the person how she could help them and sent the video text off. A minute long, she got business from it. So it is effective. They use our seller's presentation and RPR. So I'm going to show you where that is in a second. All right, so let's go do a little demo. First, I want to show you where that seller's presentation is. So this is our website. Just go to more, sorry, wrong one. More buyer sellers. And not too far down the page are these zipped files. So when I say do a buyer presentation or seller presentation, that's what these are. If you open up these files, you'll see 8 or 10 different documents that you can use to, as a guide to your clients. Okay, so just FYI, that is there for you. FYI also, while I'm still here, that 101 ways to prospect, go under business building, and towards the end of the page, I actually have a subheading for business sources lead generation. That's where all that is. Warm, cold lead sources, 53 ways to get more listings, 101 ways to lead generate. Okay, so if you ever get a brain freeze, that's there for you. So let's go into Remine. So this is what the logo looks like. And I am going to start just at a very high level, because this is kind of confusing. Okay, so go to search, and it will, in my case, bring up geographically where I am. And all these circled numbers are number of houses that exist. So you are in a plane flying at 30,000 feet. You need to get it down to 5,000 feet in order to do what we want to do today. So let's do that. Let's go to over here. Let's go to Tarrant County. So I'm going to click that little circle. It's going to go down even further. And let's click over here. We want to get to a point where there's no more little circles. Okay, and so now when it gets down to the hundreds, these are subdivisions. All right, these are subdivisions that have a couple of hundred homes in them. So let's go here. I've not done this before, so this will be a wild ride. So these dots over these plots are houses. So you can click on one of these and it's gonna show up here, right? And this one happens to be, 720 Briarwood Lane, 265, 738 is off the market. That may have been what it sold for previously, but we're still at about 10,000 feet. You want to go down to 5,000. So let's talk about the first example where I said you could shop for potential sellers. So over here are going to be your filters. And you could filter by what the property's worth, property value, how much home equity they have, ownership time. But I'm going to go right to seller score. And a seller score is, let's pop it open, from low, medium to high. And the score is rating the likelihood that that owner, that dot, is going to sell. And so what criteria are they using? Well, when you go to Facebook or any other website and they ask you permission to share your information, or that we use cookies or whatever, and you just click yes, like I do, they're tracking your behavior. And so goes Remind. So if a member of the general public is sitting at their computer at home, there's an IP address with that computer. And if they are going to sites like Zillow or Realtor.com, or searching for mortgages, or looking for real estate agents, then that demonstrates behavior that would suggest that they are going to move. And if they are not doing a lot of that or any of that, well, then that's going to be a low score. So in my example, I'm going to want people with a high seller score. So I'm just going to click high for right now, and I'm going to click apply. When I do that, it could be that none of these come up, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. So apply. All right, so 6 people showed up. Now listen, time was where realtors would spend thousands of dollars a month sending out mail pieces to subdivisions just like this, not knowing that there were only 6 people out of 400 that were really seriously poised to move. So isn't this a much better way to do it? So I'm not sending anything to any of these people. It'd be a waste of time. So what do you do? Well, you can click on these. Now, some of these might be for sale, so I'm just telling you. Well, so this one isn't. This is a good example. So this is off the market. Owners are Judy A. Howard. So we're gonna click on this. This is actually a good example. I love it when stuff works out, because I didn't plan it this way. So you can kind of scroll down. Let me get to my scroll bar. So this little home is 1,300 square feet, built in 1957. The value is $280,007. Okay, so these people apparently have been looking at various sites which suggest that they might be ready to move. So what do you do with that information? So in this case, who's my niche? Sellers, right? I want listings, people that are motivated. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see a tab that says owners and associated people. Click on that. And here is Judy. So you already know Judy's name. So when you go to the door, if that's your play, and you say, hi, Judy, there's going to be some familiarity there. Let's go into contact information. Used to have to pay for this. Judy has a do not call on her phone number, so we're not going to call Judy. We might text her if we're feeling bold that day, but we have her email address. Say a prayer at AT&T.net. There you go. So we can send Judy an email. We might text her. but we at least know her name and can go pay Judy a visit and maybe bring her a list of comps or a report from RPR just for her home that suggests exactly what her value is or a range of value. And so instead of the shotgun approach, this is very, very surgical. So if I lived in this neighborhood or near it, and that's kind of the key, I wouldn't go beyond geographically where it's going to be too painful to drive to. I know that my mission is 6 houses. That's a good day. That is a good day. All right. So those are sellers. Let's get rid of this. Let's arrow down. And there's an icon for absentee. Let's click on that. And then these choices come up. Absentee meaning what? A corporation owns it. I don't want owner occupied. I want absentee in state, absentee out of state. Okay, that means that they don't live there. I'm going to click apply. And man, there's a handful. So if I, whoops, zoom out, there's several. There's a ton. That should not surprise y'all. It's nauseating, but it shouldn't surprise you. So these are rental properties. Okay, and given the age of that home that we just looked at, that does not surprise me. So what does that mean? You could target current owners that are renting out their home that are sick of being a landlord, or you could target, forget that, because the market's great. Maybe they just want to hang on to it for a while and see what happens. So if that's a dead end, there are renters in these homes, and renters become first-time home buyers, okay, or home buyers in general. And so, there's 73 results, and I just zoomed out once. So this is a gold mine that you can go after, okay? So that's second and third. Let's do distressed. Distressed deals. What does that look like? Okay, there is a judgment out on the owner. Let's just do notice of default. So they're late in their payments, or notice that there is going to be a foreclosure sale. It's coming. Hit apply. Well, that's encouraging. None. None. That's good. So we just have to go somewhere else for that. This is not, apparently the destination or, an area that has a lot of that. Well, here's one. I moved it. I moved the map. So here's one. All right, so click on this guy. Sale canceled, 79 days on market, 529,000. So same thing. You click on this, find out the person's information. I have no earthly idea if we can help them or not, but it would be good to have a conversation because they're probably being hit up by slimy investors and people that don't have their best interest at heart. And look, there's a lot of shame and embarrassment that goes along with this. And so for someone to be a trusted ear would be a breath of fresh air. So just FYI. So this is what you can do with Remine. Okay. Any questions before I press on? Okay. So next is second home purchaser. So 70%, so second home demand rose 70% from pre-pandemic levels just this past October. And so this is a thing because there is more mobility, people can work from wherever, and at the time, interest rates were still very favorable and people were doing this, right? So how do you find renters' names? You wouldn't be able to, but you would be able to go knock on the door and just have a conversation. Sorry, guys, that was a question in the chat. Okay, so Whoops. Come on, there we go. Okay. So what is their mindset? So they clearly have disposable income to support the purchase. They have flexibility to work anywhere. They will typically want convenience, but relaxation. May not need a big home, so think townhome or condo. And the school system won't matter, but activities, restaurants, and medical care will. Okay, NAR does have a designation for this one as well. Okay, so where are you going to find these folks and what are you going to do with them? Well, they are going to rarely be local. Okay, so even though we are not in an area where we may be close to a coast or a destination, Texas has a ton of lakes and there are plenty of people buying second homes in Texas. Okay, but you could think about joining us or creating a social media group specific to second homes, or a social media group, so be it LinkedIn or Facebook, in places where they're moving from. Okay, so if they're moving to Texas, where are they coming from, and why? And that's where you want to kind of place your influence, right? You could simply do this. Look for current listings that fit this description, that are like lake houses or would make a great second home, and just start posting them on social media. Nothing grabs attention quicker than a picture. Okay, so if you are in these groups, post these pictures, and better yet, if you've created the group, then you have authority over all the content. Okay, you could do ads that target buyers from colder climates, or again, places from where they are moving to Texas. Okay, you could do YouTube videos about Texas as a second home destination. This to me would be a very searchable item in YouTube. And remember, YouTube is owned by Google. The more you're on YouTube, the better search results you're going to get. But let's say it looks like this. You find a lake house that is within a half an hour or 45 minutes from you. It's a listing. You go to that listing, you film the listing, you talk about it, and you blast it out on YouTube or a social media channel. It will get recognition, and 24 hours a day. Okay, and NAR has a designation for this. Okay, so community outreach. So I talked a little bit about this last week or the week before. So if you are volunteering for something, people aren't going to be put in your path as clients at first. They're there to give back. And so I would always just kind of caution to not mess with that. I mean, it's volunteering is not a networking opportunity necessarily at first. So you will encounter also just a wide range of buyers and sellers with all kinds of circumstances, right? And so don't get tempted to be all things to everybody. You might encounter a military veteran, you don't know anything about how that process works. Don't attempt it. But I'm just saying that, the chances are good that you're going to come across a wide range of customers. Subtle approach works best. Again, you're not there to sell, you're there to volunteer. So how can you kind of build this in to creating this niche for you? So for those of you that don't know, there is, there's a website out there. I'm sure it's one of many, and they are nationwide. I already checked this out. So wherever you live in Texas, you can use this website. It's called justserve.org. And if you have a heart for serving, or if you want to make this part of, what your niche is about, go to justserve.org and they will know where you are. And if they don't, just do a search for your zip code. And you will see opportunities on either an ongoing basis or by event specific. right? So let's say, the Red Cross has something going on every weekend. You could do that. But there's also, hey, Carter Blood Care is having a blood drive in 2 weeks. It's the only one this quarter. Come and volunteer. And those opportunities exist as well. Okay. So if you don't know where to go, this is a great kind of catch-all to help you. Okay. So other opportunities, the good old Goodwill, Salvation Army, Red Cross, always have business cards handy, right? So if nothing else, hand out a business card. And then make it a goal to bring up real estate somehow during a conversation, but don't push it. And I would always be enthusiastic, because the market is tough right now. But don't play that up. Always say how much you love real estate, love helping people find their dream home. Your enthusiasm will absolutely be contagious. And remember, people are going to naturally be in a giving mood, and I think just more likely to receive what you're telling them. And so if you approach it that way, I think your odds will be great. Okay. And so in that arena, are there sponsorship opportunities to kind of get your own personal brand out there, right? Are you going to show up and help an elderly person's, rake their lawn, or so that's going to be hotter than heck, right? So can you bring water bottles, and the table says sponsored by you, White Rock Realty, whatever? Is there some way to do that where it's appropriate? So but this is going to be a delicate walk, obviously, because that's not what you're really there for. But I do believe that from these kinds of relationships will come business. Okay. Now you might go volunteer somewhere where there are just hundreds of different volunteers. And so from that perspective, you might be better off striking up a relationship with 1 or 2 people and serving them that way. So building that rapport with that person. Now remember, they may not directly be a referral partner, like they may not have a need, but they know people, as we all do. And so don't get discouraged if they're not your customer. The goal is to get the word out about you to as many people as you can. Okay. Okay, so age group. So we're talking about Millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. So Millennials are going to be right now between 26 and 41 years old. They are in the career establishment mode. They are right to own their own home for a growing family. But think about kind of these non-traditional home ownership scenarios. There are lots of couples out there that have no desire to get married, but they're going to go buy a home together. That is extremely common. Know what that is about. Okay, what the implications are, who signs the contract, who gets the loan, all that good stuff. Gen Xers, they're going to be between 42 and 57. They're in their prime earning years. They are, some of them, thinking about multi-generational housing for aging parents. And then baby boomers, they have the financial resources. They're going to be between 58 and 76. They are the forever young generation. They're looking for the next phase of their life. These are going to be people that perhaps want to buy a vacation home. So where are you going to find them? What are you going to do with them? So millennials, many of them are going to be living in apartments or rental homes. Look at college alumni associations, or possibly a current home that they just bought, they might want to cash in on. This is the situation my daughter is in. She and her boyfriend, they're in their late 20s. They live together, purchased a home from D.R. Horton about 1.5 years ago, right before everything just started to get crazy. And that home is worth about $125,000 18 months later than it was when they bought it. And so they are actually thinking about cashing in. I think it's impulsive, but that's kind of where their mindset's at, because who's not going to turn down $125,000 when you're 28 years old? Where they're going to go next, I have no idea, but this might be kind of what some of these folks are thinking. Gen Xers. So these are probably going to be current homeowners. So Remind, health clubs, right? Maybe they've had a procedure already that they need to get fit, or, talk about health concerns. You're going to find them at the health club. Special interest organizations, this is where they're going to have the financial resources and bandwidth to be involved in things like their kids' Boy Scout, troop, or Kiwanis, or some other special interest organization that's important to them. Baby boomers, golf clubs, health clubs, active living places, active senior communities, right? That's where you're going to find these folks. So, easy for me to say, but be wherever they are. This is just a sampling of where they might be. You're going to have to do some more digging to find out where these folks are. These are your neighbors. Okay, in my neighborhood, it's a cycle. Half the people are in my situation where they moved here 15, 20 years ago, but their kids are grown and gone, and half have kindergarten age kids, and so it's going to be a mixed bag. So be wherever they are. Look for sponsorship and networking opportunities. Most people like when a realtor is involved in giving back or thinks that what their customers are involved in are important. Okay, get those specific designations, speak their language. If you want to be, in the military arena, as one example, you got to know how to speak the language. You got to know what those specific needs are. Okay, and then lastly, if you're a millennial, don't go after the baby boomer generation. That's not going to be a natural fit for you. I mean, grow where you're planted. Go where your age group is. It is going to be a lot more natural to succeed than to kind of swim upstream. All right, so that's it. I have some kind of final wrap-up notes, but does anybody have any questions, comments, or input based on their own experience or what I just went through?
One thing I was going to suggest to volunteer for all realtors, Habitat for Humanity. Good opportunity to learn about the product that we're selling from the grassroots up. You won't believe how just the knowledge of how something's built will really help you when people ask you questions about the house. And there's a lot of people that volunteer. I've noticed in the past when I've done it, there's a lot of people that are first-time home buyers and they want to see how a house is built. That's why they volunteer.
Yep, 100%. Great input. Okay. So some final thoughts. This is going to feel like work because it is. Okay, so this is a get-rich business, real estate, but it's not a get-rich-quick business. Okay, so you've got to plant the seeds in order for, the roots to grow. Okay, plant only grows from the bottom up. You've got to plant those seeds and wait for it to grow. But man, you got to water it, right? You've got to water it. You can't just send a flyer out once and think that that's going to do it. When I was making expired listings, a core piece of my business, it was minimum 10 to 15 times I had to reach out to them. Okay, so please bear that in mind. Keep at it. Give it at least a year to see real results. Okay, and be prepared to adjust the process along the way if you need to. Okay, and then this is prime fodder for setting up a coaching time with me because we'll have something strategic to talk about. Coaching sessions are either about, I have no business, help me. Or in this case, I'm going after first-time home buyers. I want to try this. What are your thoughts? And I never tell the same two people the same thing, by the way. It's because y'all are different. And so the conversation goes different places. And so our collective answers tend to be different from person to person. So please take advantage of that. All right, so next week is our CE class opportunity. I think it's $5. It's about using video in your real estate business, presented by Allegiance Title. I sent out the flyer earlier in the week, so if you need it again, I'll send it out again just in case. You can show up and not pay and still show up. You just won't get credit. But if you need an extra hour, why not? I think it's going to be great. And then lastly, the graphic I have on the right is of Dawn Moore. She's the legal counsel for Allegiance Title. It is her company. And she does a weekly tip that comes out on Thursdays. And one came out today. And if you want, and you get it texted. And the text is, it's actually pretty full service. It's the only way I can explain it. You get an automatic text that says, hey, here's Dawn's tip of the week. And then it gives you an explanation on what it is. And then it gives you a hyperlink to YouTube so you can watch the video. And so 4 minutes of your life, and you're going to leave smarter than before you signed on. Today was actually, I listened to all of them, and they're all archived on the Allegiance Title website, by the way. But if you want to get them in real time, text the word title to this number, 945-218-2225. And each week, right around 10 or 11, you'll get an auto text with that link. You can opt out anytime, but it'll keep coming. So today, she talked about the nuance of a buyer signing an appraisal, a full appraisal waiver, option 1, but still being able to get out of the contract if the appraisal was done within the financing period. In her example, it was that 21 days, and they ended up not being able to really qualify. So I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but it is extremely worth listening to. And that's just one example of just the high level content that she puts out every week. So even if you don't look at them every week, sign up for them. You're going to find some value with regards to the ones that you do take a listen to. So anyway, that was it for today. Any other questions or concerns? No? All right. Well, I'll send out the CE invite, and if y'all want to, obviously hop on next week, go for it. I'm going to be there. Otherwise, you guys enjoy the rest of your week and have a great rest of the day. We'll see you.